Why did you enlist in the Navy?
Well, I enlisted because of the war. It seemed like that was the thing to do in those days. Everybody was enlisting there, or either drafted or enlisting, so I enlisted. I was only 17 years old, and when I joined the Navy, I wanted to get in the submarine corps, but they didn't need anybody in there at the time, so they put me where they needed me.
Okay.
And I went to school for 6 months to learn how to be a fire controlman, which is controlling the guns on the ship.
Where
Had
did
nothing
you?
to do with fire.
Had nothing to do with fire.
No.
Okay. Where did you go for your training?
Sampson, New York.
Okay.
It was a very short course because, like I say, they were in a hurry to get men at that time, so they shoved us right through it. No big deal. So instead of being like a 2-year course, we got shoved through in less than a year.
What was your training like?
My training
Mhm.
was very simple, and I didn't really do much. For some reason or another, I seemed to get out of all the KPs and stuff like that. All I did was loaf around most of the time. That's the same thing I did on the ship. I never really got involved in actual duties of a sailor because of my position. And then I eventually took over the tailor shop because the tailor that we had on board got sick and was sent home. So my bosun's mate enlisted me to become the tailor, which turned out great because it turned out I had my own private room and everything. So, and I did the guys' tailoring. That way I got all my laundry done for nothing, and I got my haircuts and shaves and massages and all that kind of stuff. So it really turned out great. I had a racket.
Did you have any specialized training during your service?
Well, just that there, learn how to be a fire controlman, which was the actual control of the ship's guns, automatic controls that I had to take care of and set and so forth. And then I also operated the rangefinder on the side.
How did you adapt to the military life, the food?
Oh, I adopted great.
Social life, yeah.
Like I say, for some reason or another, everything just turned out great for me. I was lucky. I never had to go through any of the difficult training periods or anything like that, so and I had a racket.
Where did you serve in the war?
I served aboard 2 ships. I served the main ship I served on was a tanker, and fleet tanker, which we traveled with the fleet and refueled the ships before they went into battle, and then refueled them as they came out, and we refueled them again, and so they could go back in again. Then I also served a little bit of time on a minesweeper. The gentleman they had on the minesweeper at the time, doing the job I was doing on the tanker, he got sick, so they sent me over there to train somebody, which is only about 4 months. Took me about 4 months till I had somebody trained to take over that job. Then I went back to the tanker. So it's been the majority of my time on the tanker.
Okay. What was it like to be on a ship for months on end?
Oh, it was good, except for the ship I was on, we never got into ports. Uh, Instead of going to port to get fill our tanks, we just met some ship out at sea and got the oil and gas from them. So we were out at one stretch. We were out 18 months without ever getting off the ship. So, but they fed us good. They brought food in from big aircraft carriers. They brought us food and fresh vegetables and all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't bad.
How were you treated on the ships?
Oh, wonderful! Like I said, I had a racket. I did all the tailoring for the officers. So they treated me great, and their mess boys, I did their tailoring, so they brought me the same food the officers were eating, I was eating, so hey, couldn't get any better than that.
Yeah. Did you arrive after the battles, or were you there before
No,
the
before,
battles?
because we had to be there to make sure the ships were all refueled before they went in, and then when they went in and did the shelling, then they came on and we refueled them again so they could go back in again. We laid back about, I'd say probably 50 miles or so. So it was, no big deal. I had a good time. I enjoyed every minute of it.
What did you see in the Pacific Islands, like the terrain and the weather?
Oh, the Pacific Islands are beautiful. I mean, what I saw of them, the only one I only got off at two islands. I got off in Hawaii for a while, a couple of days, which was a beautiful place, and then I also got off in the Marshall Islands after the battle was over, and they had the most beautiful water there, clear as a whistle. It seemed like you could see forever down the water, and nothing but coral, beautiful coral and fish, beautiful fish. Those are the only two islands that I really got off on. Although I did go to other islands to pick up our mail. I was assigned the mail boy, so I used the captain's gig to go to other islands to pick up our mail, but I never got a chance to go around the islands.
What was it like in Leyte in the Philippines?
Well, it was, like I say, I never really got involved in any of the battles. We could hear and see the guns going off, but we were laid back and well guarded. We had four destroyers guarding us, one on each side, one on the stern and one forward. So we had four destroyers around us to protect us.
How many ships were in your convoy? Like, there would be 3 destroyers guarding you. How many ships were in your convoy? Were there?
Oh my! Sometimes there was as high as 25, anywhere from 20 to 25.
What was it like? Describe some of your battle experiences in the war. You said you weren't in battle that often.
No, I don't know if you'd call it battle or not. We were attacked by kamikazes twice, but because of the protection we had with the destroyers, only one ever got close to us. And then our sister ship that we traveled with, they were torpedoed by one of those small one-man submarines, I guess you'd call them. They were actually just man torpedoes is what they really were. They were hit twice with one of those, and they sank it within, oh my, just seemed like minutes. They sank. Well, it was more than minutes. I'd say maybe an hour at the most. So they lost most of their men. They lost most of their men, and because they had about 3 or 4 explosions on board. They had just loaded up with fuel, aviation fuel, which we carried to supply the small carriers that went with the convoys, and we couldn't see it, but we could hear it, and we saw the flames go up in the air and stuff like that. But it was pretty bad. And then we had to hang around for a couple of weeks to pick up the dead bodies and so forth.
That must have been sad.
Huh?
Was that sad? Was that a traumatizing experience, seeing the dead bodies?
Well, it wasn't pretty, that's for sure, because the bodies were all bloated, and we used grappling hooks to get a hold of them, and they like tearing their arm off or something like that. So it wasn't a pretty sight, but something that had to be done.
On a lighter note, describe some friendships you made during the war.
Well, I made a lot of good friends, although I never stayed in touch with any of them except for a short period of time, and then gradually we just more or less faded away. I had one particular friend that lived in close to Philadelphia, in Manayunk. He was a boxer, and we were very good friends. And I went when we came back to the States, I went home with him for a couple of days. So, other than that, I had a pretty good friend from Tennessee. He was a big, strapping outdoors guy. So he was my protector. Nobody could ever get close to me and do me any harm, because he was right there to protect me.
I wish I had a big guy to defend me.
Yeah.
Are you still? You said you weren't, and you're not still in contact with any of your friends.
No, I no longer am.
How did you stay in contact with your family during the war?
During the war?
Yeah, how did you stay in contact with them? Did you send them
Well,
letters?
the only friends I had were the ones on board ship, so so it was easy to stay in contact with them. We weren't going anywhere.
Did you send letters?
Whoops.
Did you send letters to your family? While
Yes.
you were on the ship?
Yes, that's the only communication I had with the family was through letters, which I'm not a very fond letter writer, so they got very few letters from me. I got a lot from them, but they got very few from me.
How did you feel when you heard that the war was finally over?
Oh, great! In fact, well, when the war actually ended, we were on our way back to the States then already, because they were no longer shelling any islands or anything like that. So the last one we were in was when they were shelling the Philippines before MacArthur got back to the Philippines, and so then they sent all of us back to the States.
So your ship was sent home because they didn't really need it anymore?
Huh?
Your ship was sent home because they didn't really need it anymore?
Right. They kept a couple of them there, but we were one that was sent home.
What was the reaction of all of your friends on the ship when the war was over? Like, was it all a big celebration? And
Well,
everything?
we landed in San Francisco. That's where we landed, and it was like a one drunk period of a week. We all got loaded and caroused around, picking up girls and so forth. So it was, like I say, typical sailor's life.